leave, but even she was rushing away now as her husband was treating her to dinner in a new restaurant in Didsbury. A first wedding anniversary celebration. "Paper," she said, pausing by Jo's desk. For a second, Jo thought she was referring to the state of her workspace. When she'd first arrived in this job several years ago, Caroline had wasted no time in telling her that her notebooks, printouts and post-its would have to go. Jo saw them as essential to the way she worked, the way she kept everything organised. Caroline saw them as a fire hazard. "Paper? The anniversary. Like 25 years is silver and 50 is gold. The first is paper." Jo sighed. She should have known. She and her ex-husband had got as far as their third anniversary. She'd given him a pint glass personalised with his name, but she'd never seen him use it. He'd given her a set of crystal wine glasses from John Lewis, which were too ostentatious for Jo's tastes. A few months later, she'd broken one of them washing up. They were too delicate for the dishwasher, and Si had berated her for days afterwards, accusing her of being clumsy. Jo had ordered a small apple tree for their 4th anniversary, fruit and flowers, but they'd divorced shortly before reaching it, and she'd been single ever since. Being single was fine, of course, if you wanted to be single. But now Jo had reached her mid-30s, she longed to have someone to share her life with, or at least her evenings and weekends. Caroline reached into her bag and pulled out a newspaper. "My anniversary gift for Paul, what do you think?" "A copy of the Times, from the day we met." "Romantic." If she was ever lucky enough to get to a first anniversary with someone again, Jo thought, she'd like to be given paper too, preferably containing a hearty portion of fish and chips purchased from a proper chippy at the seaside. "Have a lovely time," she called to Caroline's disappearing back. "Can't wait to hear all about it on Monday." Jo was lying. She didn't want to hear about her colleague's romantic dinner. It would only remind her that she had no one. But it was true that she couldn't wait till Monday. At least in the office there were people around. She wouldn't feel so bad if, A, she still shared a flat with Gemma in the city centre, but Gemma had moved to Watford 2 months ago with her partner's job, and B, the man she'd recently started referring to as her boyfriend, albeit only in her head, hadn't texted cancelling their date that evening with only a couple of hours' notice. And C, yes, there was a C, now she came to think of it, if she hadn't overheard Leona bitching about her earlier in the small office kitchen. She picked up her phone and looked at Dan's message again. "Sorry, can't make tonight after all." It was over 2 weeks since she'd seen him. He'd been perfect too. Attractive, confident. Jo felt she needed someone confident to make up for her own shortfall in that area. Outgoing, ditto. And quirky too, with his spiky hair and flamboyant shirts. Quirky, now there was a good word. 22 points even before you counted any bonuses like triple letter or double word scores. Meeting Dan had been a bit of a result. She'd been anxious about dating again, after all she'd been through. Deep down, she didn't believe she was worthy of finding love. And even more anxious about joining a dating app. She found it so hard to trust anyone. No, more than that, she found it hard to trust her own judgment. But nor did she want to be alone for her entire life, and how else were you meant to meet anyone these days? Especially if you weren't particularly extroverted. She wasn't the sort of woman who'd initiate a conversation with a man in the chiller aisle at Tesco, and as for chatting up someone in a bar, well, that was never going to happen. So Jo had joined the dating app, and, anxious often to the point of nausea, had gone on a series of first dates, mostly terrible.